We're here doing a quick tutorial on how to do a baseboard install. My two basic tools right here, my tape measure and my writing pad. My writing pad, I just use a basic piece of scrap wood. Anytime I come into a room, I always have my direction that I go. I go clockwise in every room. I'll come in the bedroom, I'll start right on my casing leg. We come in after we set the casing for the doors. And literally, you start here and work your way all the way around the house. Depending on what kind of baseboard you use, will determine what you cut and how you cut it. The baseboard that we have today is a basic 1/2 inch by 6 inch baseboard, which means in our inside corners, at least the way we do it around here, is we do a butt joint, where a lot of people will do a mitered joint. On our inside corners, we do a butt joint, and so we measure from the inside corner to the edge of the casing. We take that measurement, and that's what we cut it at. As we go around the room though, being that we have this 1/2 inch, we go around the room, and on the next wall, we measure that and we subtract the width of that first baseboard that you put on. So that way you don't have to cut a piece, install it, come back in, remeasure the next wall and go. You literally can measure each individual wall. You write down your measurement. I actually use little hash marks as far as different directions and angles next to that measurement, so I know whether or not it's a straight butt cut on the right hand or left hand, or if it's a 45 joint. Okay, so like I said, on our inside corners with this type of base mold, because it's flat, we're able to do what's called a butt joint, where everything's just cut flat and you just put it together. It's a paint grade, so we caulk all those joints and it's perfect for the painters. However, on an outside corner here, we don't want to do a butt joint, because then you have a seam along the edge. It's a 1/2 inch back. You have to bondo it and sand it and bondo it and sand it. So what we do a 45 cut, and it's not actually a 45 cut. That's why I wanted to come over here. On an outside corner like this, when the drywallers come in and they do all of their mudding and taping and sanding, they're adding the metal on the corners, it actually creates an odd angle on these corners. And so a lot of times with this paint grade material, you cut on an outside corner, you cut a 46-degree angle instead of a 45-degree angle. So what that does is it makes the outside corner a little bit longer than the inside corner. So when you go to put it together, it makes a nice tight corner, so there's not a gap on the outside edge. Once you get everything cut and in place, we take some door scribe actually, and we use door scribe for our spacer off the floor. When you're doing carpeted rooms, pre-carpet installation, you put some of this on the ground as you go around. You just slide it underneath the baseboard, and it creates that perfect distance off the floor for just about any carpet. Whether it's a short carpet or a tall carpet, it allows that tack strip and the carpet to be tucked right underneath it. When we are done installing all of our drywall, texturing and sanding everything, our finished carpenters come in, and that's when we do the bulk of our trim install. We set all of the doors, we case them out, we do all of the baseboard within the carpeted areas. Anything that can be done in advance of tile going in, hardwood flooring going in, cabinetry going in, we will do that and get it all done, because then the painters will come in afterwards and paint the entire home. That way all they have to do is come back and paint just the sections that were installed post tile flooring and hardwood and cabinetry. Okay, here we are. We're prepping for install. A lot of times when the drywallers are in and done, the drywall isn't very clean or as clean at the bottom or the base of a wall as it is on the top, because it gets covered up with baseboard. That being said though, a lot of times there's a little bit of buildup on the base of the wall, and so typically before or as they go into a room to measure, you'll come in with a chisel or a putty knife or something like that. Every once in a while you'll have a higher portion of drywall. You can just come in and you scrape it down to where it's more flat, because those little inconsistencies, especially on a long straight wall, will show. You'll get waves in your baseboard as you go. So you come in, you scrape that down first, and then for this one we have an outside corner like I talked about earlier, where typically it's a 45, but we will cut it at a 46-degree angle. So you measure from the inside of the casing to the outside of the corner. Right here I have what I term 12 1/4 minus. Everybody does it differently. Some people mark literally to the 1/16 of an inch. I choose to mark to the 1/8 of an inch or the 1/4 inch, and then I'd use a mark that's either a plus or a minus for the 1 1/4 heavy or 1 1/4 shy. And then we'll show you the rest of my markings as we move forward. This is the biggest rule in finished carpentry. Wood glue. Never put an outside corner on without gluing it. Some people use wood glue, some people use hot glue, hot glue. I've actually seen some people do clear silicone caulk. So there's a number of things you can do in order to get this corner a nice tight corner. With this 46-degree angle, in fact, I had to come back in and clean up the outside corner again a little bit more, like I was explaining earlier. In order to get these corners a nice tight corner, you got to clean some things up in order to make it nice, make it easier for the painters. I've got this first piece on. I've got my spacers down. I've got a nice tight corner. Sometimes that corner still isn't as nice, and so you carry a piece of sandpaper and you just run up the corner a few times, make it nice and clean. Sometimes you have some glue that comes out that needs to be cleaned up, and that's as easy as can be. For your nail pattern on your baseboards, every house is different. Exterior walls are different, interior walls are different. Most people will frame interior and exterior walls the same anymore with a 16 on center pattern. It's the easiest way to find where one of your studs is at is you find an outlet. On one side or the other of an outlet, you have a stud. And then from there, you just go every 16 inches, there's a stud. So you want to we put in a nail at the top of the board and it's a nail at the bottom of the board every 16 inches. That way it keeps it nice and tight to the wall. We also use 2-inch 18-gauge brad nails for our baseboards. Just long enough to get through the baseboard, the drywall, and into the actual meat of the stud behind it. So with paint grade trim work, we do a lot of puttying and a lot of caulking. What my painters do is they come in with this vinyl putty. They get a good amount and they hit every nail hole with some putty. Every hole gets covered. Sometimes they leave a little bit of buildup on it so that way when they come back in, they come in with a sanding sponge or a sanding block and we'll knock that down nice and smooth. They will come in and prime everything. And once the priming is done, they come back in and re-inspect all the nail holes that they've already puttied and sanded. Any of them that they can still see, they come in with a red Bondo. They'll hit all the nail holes that they still see. So sometimes you'll come into a house as they're working and there'll be red spots all over the entire home. But that's how they can see it better and remember where they've hit an imperfection in the wood, where they know they need to come in and sand it. And that's basically where we're at. After they putty it, they caulk it, they prime it, they Bondo, they sand it again, and then come in and spray Typically it's the baseboard first, and then they mask it all off and come and paint the walls next. Caulking is fairly simple and easy. The most important thing to do is to make sure that there are no imperfections in it. You quickly put a bead of caulking in along the face and the top of the baseboard. Carry it around a wet rag. First, you go over it with just your finger. That gets the majority of it off, and then you use your wet rag to clean it up. The trim work is the finishing touch of your home, and that is what speaks for your home. That's what makes your home your home. So whether you have a modern, desired theme home, farmhouse, craftsman, it doesn't matter what you choose, it doesn't matter what your style is, but the millwork is what makes your home your home.